talked about him a ton, but SwellerTiger as well, right on his heels in the standing. Volta taking back-to-back firsts, Sweller taking back-to-back seconds. These players are fighting to guarantee their way into tomorrow's games, the final games of the Superbrawl.
Oh my gosh, checkmate awaits just a few games away for all our players. Of course, they have been practicing, they've been putting their time together, they've been talking through every single comp, every kind of situation, and it just feels like the acceleration is getting stamped down more and more as time goes on.
I feel like we've been seeing a lot more early game compositions find success today than we did yesterday. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on those as we go forward. And of course, Tiaan, we've got to highlight. I will not shut up about it. I'm so sorry, chat. But our African representative here coming in to the Superbrawl and really just blowing us all away after his amazing performance in GSC2 as well.
Oh yeah, and of course, and day one had a pretty rough start there before managing to find their feet much later on. Of course, they found their success in the same place a lot of other players found their success, in the loving arms of the Horde and the Alliance.
Exactly. That Dragon Horde, Dragon Alliance combo has been coming up a lot, but has been pretty variable. Like we've been talking about all day, it requires a ton of economy to work, and that causes a lot of problems for some of the players.
I would say, I would definitely like to see our players get themselves a strong early going. We've seen, all the way back from the beginning of day one, how very dangerous it can be to try and play towards the, the lost streak style of things. I think even if you're giving up some amount of economy to stay more or less in the middle of the pack, the possibility of getting hammered and knocked out early on is still too big to ignore.
And we've got our augments coming out here. First choice, that is a quick slam there from Tiaan, picking up that Cavalier spat, leaving it open for a potential Yasuo Cavalier to cap off the board later in the game.
It's interesting though, because we're in an electric overload Mirage, so not the one that mostly we would see people all galloping towards at the first chance. We check across with brubbba, and it looks like we'll be seeing what we've been missing for a little bit, which is the return of the great god Nomsy, or goddess Nomsy.
Yeah, that's a really heavy commit here from brubbba early on, and like you were saying, we haven't really seen a whole lot of this composition today. A lot of times you're going to see it with that Siphon frontline, with the mage trainer behind it, and frankly, I'm excited to see it come back. I'm sure in a second I'll be annoyed, but Deisik as well, going back to that scale scoring comp.
When we're talking about the ability to throw Assassin into the composition, Deisik has found the most incredible start. They've got both the Olaf and the Diana. That Olaf's going to get killed off in the early going and continue stacking up power. I don't think Deisik could possibly have asked for more.
Yeah, this is a beautiful start for him. I'd love to see what's going on his board the next couple of rounds. Of course, he's going to win that one through Frozen Heart Diana. There's not a whole lot you can do against that, especially in the early game.
I mean, there's a reason why they took the item out. So the next half set, incredibly obnoxious. I mean, we've seen a lot of backline carry comps, and it just completely destroys them.
Wow, he's already got 4 scale scoring on the bench. He's going to, of course, be sacrificing this Olaf early, but the moment he decides, all right, enough of that, it's time to start forcing some wins, he's going to have everything he needs to start this game off right.
And taking a quick look at our augments across the board there, we can see there's quite a lot of aggressive choices in here. While Deisik has gone for Rich Got Richer, of course, their board is amazing. We have got, the combat augments coming in, the immediate power coming in most across the board. It does seem like our players are mostly trying to make sure they get their feet under them immediately.
Darkus struggling against this board as well, has picked up the True Twos there. Give you a little bit of power in the back end, but not enough econ to make it work. And that Twitch, not going to do a whole lot against that Diana that we've been pointing out. Luckily, the Olaf died again.
I mean, yeah, this is the incredible thing about what we've got going on for Deisik right now. They can basically throw a unit to the wolves with the Olaf, just have it, absorb the damage, get killed before it does too much of anything, and still be win streaking. That's just bonkers.
Because usually you want a loss streak with this, right? Like, you sacrifice your Olaf that's normally your damage carry, because most people don't luckily get both of the carry units for this composition.
I mean, it's only going to get nastier from here. We've already seen our players trying to play around a little bit with what they end up spatulaing for Olaf. Maybe we can even have a game where they don't get special at all. Up against Skrambez, though, they have committed into a very strong early board of their own.
Yeah, I've been excited to see how much Infinity Edge has been highly rated in recent games compared to previous patches on the set. Previously, it wasn't considered to be quite as strong as things like the Deathblade, but now on the back of this set, Skrambez is going to be able to finally feed Deisik his first loss of the game.
Yeah, that's big for Skrambez. So you can see from their gold generators on the right-hand side, they have given every penny they have to get to this point, but it does mean they're left in the winning position up with Volta, who, of course, we're looking to see how long Volta can keep up that clean sheet today.
Now, looking across the board, no one with anything quite interesting just yet. I'd be interested to see what else is going on other boards. Darkest, of course, our player coming out of the last round on a high after that first place with that incredible Shyvana composition. I want to see how their early game is shaping up.
Yeah, I'll be fascinated to see it as well. I mean, as I said, yeah, their late game is absolutely a work of art, but we'll see what they decide to do to get through the early game, because a lot of time they've kind of flown under the radar, and hey, who could it be but the incredibly strong early game unit of the Aatrox 2, now potentially going to be joined by an Anivia 2 as well.
Anivia early committal here from Darkest, and this gives them a ton of early board power, but not a whole lot of synergy. Finally slotting in that Swift shot to give something for the Twitch, but I'm actually not quite sure how strong this board is going to be running into something that has more synergies, and Voltariux, who's currently undefeated.
Yeah, this is going to be a pretty tough ask. You noted before, the Twitch does have a decent amount of carry potential, but that front line goes down very quickly indeed. And at least for Darkest, they're not on any kind of real win streak, so they're not going to feel too bad about that. But they are allowing for Volta to keep up the voltage. Skrambez is on the win streak as well. We're heading close to the end of round 2, or stage 2, with 2 players setting the pace.
I'm wondering if they're going to get the 1v1 coming out of this, because that would significantly change the pace of the lobby. If both of them are allowed to continue streaking into the PvE round, they're both going to be coming ahead with massive economy and putting a lot of downward pressure on the rest of the lobby.
There we go, we get to see Volta, so we see both sides of the equation. We can see also that they have both picked up very remarkably similar compositions. No actual Jade in here, but we have got the power of the empowered Shiv to start us off. So will we get the face-to-face? It's going to be... No, it's Deisik instead.
In Deisik's board, we've already seen the power, but I think against Volta might not be quite as effective. You can see that Twitch completely uncontested in the backline. Sure, that Tiaan is spooky, but the set is nigh unkillable, and Twitch is just getting to fire away.
Alright, so that is going to be one of those win streaks staying intact from Volta's side. Skrambez is still fighting, and it's looking like their pile of good stuff is going to work out pretty well as well, as SwellerTiger takes the L, push them a little bit further down the table, but that does mean that's a ton of money, a ton of power coming in for Skrambez and Volta, both of them getting to push the pace of the lobby.
And neither of them really have a composition formed just yet, all playing strongest boards, not a lot of synergies. You can see here on this board, Skrambez just using that set as an item holder, doesn't have a lot of synergies for him, not setting up for that reroll either. So I'm interested in seeing, as we get to 3-2, those second augment choices, that level up, that roll down, where he decides to take this game.
I'll be fascinated to see how they progress on here, because you're right, there is an inevitability that only one of them gets to carry this on long term. But looking further down the score table, we are thrown back forcibly to the start of day number 1. Brubbba and Juso, they are both in the 60s already.
That is a rough start, and especially now that both of these top players have continued their streak, there's going to be a lot of pressure on them. They might just have to start all-inning. We see Juso, though, has a ton of economy coming out of that loss streak at over 50 gold already.
I mean, that's exactly where you want to be. And given the fact they've actually taken the thrill of the hunt early on, they're doing really well economically. I think what's happening here, we'll get to see in the next round, is I think they're actually being able to take sort of relatively graceful losses. With the board they've got right now, they've committed in the items, so maybe this is where Juso starts turning things around, but I think it would be equally happy to keep up the loss streak, as long as they don't lose too much HP doing so.
I think no matter what happens in this round, you're happy if you're Chuso. Either you start winning and you can start getting out of your situation, save that HP, or you continue with that massive economy like you were pointing out. And it looks like the Olaf is going to be having a pretty decent time here with that thrill of the hunt, which will continue to pay dividends in this early game.
All right, so it's stage 3 when things turn around. As Skrambez goes down at the hands of Volta as well. That's going to be immensely satisfying for them.
And now, Thrill of the Hunt as an option here for Volta, I think would be incredibly strong, but depends on where he wants to take this. This will tell us a lot about whether he wants to go for that Xayah composition or if he wants to keep himself flexible.
Yeah, I mean, I love having Thrill of the Hunt in there. It's such an incredible augment. I mean, right now for Volta, we've talked about this in previous games. The more rounds they can keep stringing together, again, a silver augment to turn that into 10, 20 gold is amazing.
And there it is. It's Thrill of the Hunt, which I think is one of those augments that players, especially at below the professional level, are like, it's not very exciting, but it does so much for you. It allows you to keep that tempo. Once your board starts rolling, if you do have this strength, it lets you keep it.
Yeah, that tempo is going to allow him to roll right over. Let's see who the opponent is right there. It's going to be our friend Tiaan with the early Cavalier Spatula from before. They've got themselves a pretty decent board, but I don't think it's going to be enough to take down Volta.
I don't know, though. That set is looking mighty low, and the healing on the Yone is enough to tear through the Twitch. So maybe Volta posting his first L this game. And he has a Deja in shot, but instead opts to just pick up the Swain and save that economy.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm absolutely hyper wrong about that one. All right, for Volta, I think, honestly, they've gotten pretty darn far all the way through stage 2 and a little bit into stage 3. At least it does, particularly it means that nobody is left in that winning position, so that's ideal. It's much worse for Volta if they've got a, contender coming and nipping up their heels who will take away that winning streak position.
Not committing to anything just yet either, as we swap over to Deisik's board, who, on the other hand, has committed to a lot already.
Oh boy, so we are one Scalescorn emblem away from seeing the full power of the Scalescorns unleashed. Namiria, we've seen 4 Scalescorn comps still take lobbies. 6 Scalescorn though, it's a whole new level.
Yeah, and Deisik knows how to play this composition, already played it today to great success, so if he's able to find that spatula, you're taking a big bet, for sure. But if that bet pays off, you're going to get paid dividends.
And it's worth noting, as the Olaf has gotten pretty stacked up from Deisik already. We note again, for anyone who came into late, Deisik picking up the Olaf at the very, very start of the game. They've gotten the maximal amount of growth they could really get at this point.
And I'm really impressed with the strategy coming out of that. We talked earlier today about those micro adjustments that really play into your composition. I think for Deisik, the itemization onto the Diana specifically is so smart. You can keep sacrificing your Olaf for pretty much as long as you want, because you know you have that Diana to back him up, to keep that damage going until he needs to become the main carry at the later stages of the game.
Yeah, I really like we have seen the Diana getting a little bit more offensive isolation. I think for exactly that reason, you kind of needed to fulfill a few roles while Olaf really gets to his feet. But I can't tear my eyes away, Niberia, from the bottom of the table. Brubbba hits a 2-star Lulu, but they're down to sub 40 HP, and I'm very worried that Brubbba might be taking an early L.
Well, with that siphon, things might be looking up a little bit. Double Hand of Justice as well to give all that healing and damage. This is a composition that we've seen have success. Trainer Whispers is super common, super meta on the patch, but it's a matter of, is it too little too late? And I think Skrambez's board will be a great litmus test to see if Brubbba still has a chance at this game.
Yeah, Skrambez is pretty much where we left them off before, with the set doing a great job of item holding. You can see there are limitations though. Without any CC removal, the Lulu's able to shut down a lot of what the set would otherwise be doing. And our double Hodge on that Siphon, that's incredibly hard to deal with unless you've got the massive burst, which Skrambez definitely doesn't have.
It's paying off, especially with the Lulu in the back to keep that Siphon buffed up. You can see him just tear through the board, and brubbba seems to have recovered with that 5% chance of the level 6 Siphon.
Well, hey, you're going to take all you can get. I mean, I'm generally a big fan of being able to have a lot of HP to work with the trainers, just because you're getting the Nomsy stronger and stronger over time, particularly with Trainer 3. In this case, if brubbba ever starts taking L's again, that's really going to put a hard cap on how strong Nomsy can get.
And especially, you really want to find that Tristana 2 as early as possible so that you can get those additional cookies there for Nomsy, feed her up, give her treats for being such a good girl. And brubbba would love to win this second round, not just to save HP, but to recover his economy and give him the chance to catch up in levels with everyone else. But it's Siphon v Siphon.
Yeah, that's always bad news when they're being taken out of the pool. Juso's board looking pretty darn strong right now. We've got two itemized Siphons against each other, but we've got the scaling on the side of the Siphon, who's got the Coincy's Rage Blade, the Edge of Night as well. It's so amazing in the 1v1 matchup because it lets you avoid a huge bite and pretty much guarantee you'll win.
Yeah, unfortunately, brubbba's Siphon just kind of sending it down mid with those charge aims. So brubbba will take the L there, but 30 HP still remaining, only a 6 HP loss, could have been much more disastrous.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not overly optimistic, but we have, of course, seen players across our first day manage to hold on very well as, Darkest has got something different to show us.
Yeah, taking a step back to look at this, I wanted to flag the augment earlier. Tiny Titans picked up here for Darkest the full investment into the later stages of the game with the 5 Shimmer Scale to boot.
Yeah, for the same reasons the trainers before, I really like where Darkest is right now. They're at the top of the table with 92 HP. I was just double checking that because it doesn't. Of course, it's the Tiny Titans that makes the HP bar longer. I was starting to doubt myself there, but they've got the items here. With the Draven's Axe, with the Gambler's Blade, they're going to be paying off the longer the game goes. The more money that comes through, the more items that come through, and the stronger Darkest can tap out or cap out rather.
And these are the best Shimmer Scale items for an AG composition. People talk about how strong that combo is with the Rage Blade and the Draven's Axe. If you get the attack speed from that Shimmer Scale item on top of it, nigh unstoppable, but had to drop down to 4 Shimmer Scale. So this round might not go as well as they expect.
Yeah, they are up against brubbba, who, of course, we know desperately needs every win they can get. Unfortunately, this time, with that little window opportunity, they're about to sneak back in, but we'll keep a close eye out for them. SwellerTiger is currently at the top of the table, though things have gone a little bit awry. I think they won't just about make it through. That stacking power of Juso's 3-item Siphon is enough.
And now we're coming into the final augment round of the game. Decides the path for a lot of these players. We'll see what they pick. Sweller will be taking just that flexible second win, gives him a lot of options here, tons of healing alongside that Celestial Blessing.
Yeah, I really like seeing, I think that's what our players like as well. Pano was talking about it before. The generic augments, they really are the place where I think players find shelter and you know what you're getting with them. You don't have to lock yourself in. For TM, though, they have decided to show us, again, a pretty big diversion across. Because, they locked themselves into Cavalier early on, so they've got to be playing Cavalier, but now they're going to try and make it work with Aoshin as well.
Yeah, Tiaan really just high-rolling this board here. Sure, Stand United, Cavalier, etc., but an Aoshin plus Bard at level 7. And these items on Aoshin are absolutely ridiculous. You get the scaling attack speed and the scaling AP that mean this Aoshin, once he starts ulting, will just tear through the boards of his opponents.
I do like the Cavalier frontline because it gives you those 4 seconds where they're basically invincible because their resistance is so high. And the Bard we see there as well, also providing an extra window opportunity, which lets the ult come through. I don't think it's going to be enough this time round, but it speaks well of Tian's long-term potential.
Yeah, that front line kind of got melted a little bit too fast. Needs to find either items or units that can hold it together for longer, because we saw once that Aoshin started ulting, that board started melting.
Oh boy, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm kind of wondering what we're going to be seeing from Tiaan kind of longer term. I like it at least from where they are right now. They've got a lot of money in the bank. They've got Bard pushing their odds up. You can see right now they're at 2% legendary to be able to get even stronger. I think they'll be trying to move up to level 8 pretty soon to try and put together, you know, the board off the back of this. Let's check out what Darkus is up to though, because they are still on the 4 shimmer scale, still holding on because they've got 80 gold in the bank and they refuse to spend any of it.
I like this though. Darkus knows that they're in a position between Tiny Titans and Shimmer Scale where they can just wait until the later stages of the game. Take those losses, use your health as a resource to try and get yourself to that level 9 position where you know you should be able to beat out the rest of the field.
So we've got our friends from Skrambez, so Jade from SwellerTiger coming back. We did know coming into today and across all of our games that Jades are going to be hilariously strong. I think, you know, Xiaoyu stands out head and shoulders. If you've got, you know, a DPS, a damage over time comp, it almost doesn't do anything to Xiaoyu because she's healing up so quickly and blowing up your big units.
But I feel like we haven't seen as much as I expected. I don't know about you, but coming into this, I was expecting seeing, you know, like 3 Xiaoyus a game. But we've seen basically maybe 1 Jade comp every game. We know it's strong, but we haven't been seeing it played by our pros this much.
Well, I mean, with the large exception of brubbba, who has been actually breaking. I think this is maybe what brubbba's problem here is they've broken their pact with the Jade deities, and they've become very angry indeed that there's not just seeing Jade every single game. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe they're actually pleased because of Zoe at level 7. Why, that's no mean feat.
Now, brubbba's board, 30 HP, has been winning since we last looked at him. Every single round finds the Zoe off the back, and now looks like he's in a pretty good position. His econ isn't too terrible, should be able to hit 8 at 5-1 without too much trouble. So I'm cautiously optimistic, I'll say, Peter.
Yeah, I do like what we've got going on. I mean, Skrambez is back again with their Jade, so we have seen it, of course, so many times and again that the Xiaoyu will make mincemeat out of that siphon given the opportunity, but I think with the disruptive powers of Zoe, yeah, it's actually buying enough time for the siphon to get going.
The CC coming out of this backline is incredible. You've got the Heimerdinger stuns, Zoe with her knockups, and off the back of it as well, Lulu with her polymorphs. It just gives so much power and so much stall for that siphon and the backline. It's basically just having extra tanks by turning all of your units into their own tanks.
Oh my gosh! So one of the things we were kind of talking about off screen was whether or not we were going to be seeing, I think, no, maybe it was on the desk, we were seeing, you know, how much Swain we'd be seeing coming through. So we saw, of course, the Bryson making great use of the Swain from before, but Volta, who again is undefeated here in round number 3, deciding that this is the way to go, at least for now.
I'm assuming this is an item holder for the Deja. We can see that he's picked up a Dragon Augment, so is going to be looking for those dragons in the later stages of the game. But until you have something to itemize with those items, Swain is a perfect carrier for all 3 of the items on him right now.
Yeah, we can see we've got several items in the shop, so Volta is feeling pretty good, though up against brubbba's board. You can actually see, again, with that Zoe providing a lot of disruption, it will be brubbba slowly clawing their way up. No, they're actually on a 5-round win streak right now, with Juso joining them down at the low numbers, and Darkus and Volta starting to drop. Maybe this is a game where brubbba can really come back.
I'm absolutely shocked at this point. Remember, he was down to like 36 HP, bottom of the board in stage 3. Made an insane recovery just off picking up a single siphon, and now, like you say, I think is headed towards the top of the board, one of the most threatening boards in the lobby.
Well, so we've got to think about Jisoo here. While they're on a lost streak right now, they have got the Dragon Alliance, and they've got a lot of good stuff kind of ready to go. It feels like they're just a couple of dragons away from really hitting their speed and starting their own climb.
But because they're dragons, Peter, it's like, sure, you're a few dragons away, but that means you need to take a mortgage the size of the Taj Mahal. Like, they're such expensive units. He's rolled down now to 0 gold, can't afford any of these upgrades. He's got a bunch of 1-star dragons, but that does not a strong board make.
Yeah, it's a very tricky position to be in. You can see they've got a loss streak going, but they've got no money in the bank, and they've got very little HP to trade for any further money. So the decision that Juso takes here, I think it very much determines from this round forward if they're going to be going out in 8th or not.
I think it's doomed. If I'm being honest from here, all you have is 2 1-star dragons, a 1-star Yasuo. And sure, you've got items for that Shio Yu, but your front line's not strong enough to stall for that Ao Shin to do a whole lot. Sorry, Aurelion Sol, I always mix them up.
They're a little bit similar, let's be honest here. But Juso's going to try and hold on as best as they can. It's going to be a very rough ride. You can see Siphon with the double head adjustment. It's just incredibly hard to put down.
Stalled for a little bit longer. I thought that interrupt was going to save the fight there for Juso. Instead, going to drop them down to 4 HP. Just one more loss, and they are out of game number 3.
Oh boy, I mean, at least Juso's got a little bit more money. Okay. There we go. Show you 2. That's at least a start, and that's also going to power up the Nico as well on the front line. Got a little bit of gold coming in, but you're right, it's not a great situation. I think Juso at this point is really just fighting to try and hold on for top 6, maybe even top 7.
This is just fighting to see how minimally better you can do. Even if you take a 7 here as Juso, from this point, that's a victory in and of itself.
All right, they're going to up against here. It's our friend Darkus who's got a pile of pain of their own. See, look at the power of the Anivia on the back line. The Volibear on the front line is doing absolute work. Juso in a whole world of trouble. The Shiryu has to stand strong in the front line to give time for the Aurelion Sol to build up the damage. But I think we've run out of time. The last remaining units are being torn into. Volibear showing no signs of stopping. And Juso will be ejected at high speed. The ult's coming through, but it's meaning nothing to the God Bear.
And now Darkus with that board. We were wondering where they were going to take this when we get into the later stages of the game. We've seen it was that Volibear reroll. Now, refocusing onto Skrambez's board. One of the health leaders earlier on in the game, but has been stuck on a Shio U1 as their primary carry for so long at this point. Feels like they're on their way out as well.
And I think we've seen this so many times across the course of this weekend. You know, players, they give absolutely everything to try and keep up the momentum, but when that fails, they're just left waiting for the hammer to drop. Volta, of course, will be happy to try and provide that hammer. They've got an incredibly beefy front line, but the damage is all coming from Swain.
And he is just firing away safely, trying to dig through that front line. Shio Yu versus Shio Yu, but Shio Yu, unfortunately for Skrambez, decides to not target the Swain, who fires away and clears out the board, taking Skrambez to a mere 14 HP.
So while we gear up for our late game, please to go check out our TFT tree friends, growmytree.com/discount/TFT-tree. Liberia, what's the command if folks want to help support this planet and make sure it is fit for us to do future TFT tournaments on?
I was about to say @ and then I realized this isn't Twitter. It's ! TFT for us, so check that one out, see. And remember, if we get to 1,000 from you guys, we here at Rising Legends will be matching you with another 1,000 beautiful trees.
Absolutely, and I hope one day we all get to live on a planet far in the future which has TFT in all the forests around the world. But of course that won't happen if we can't plant some trees. As we check in with brubbba, who has made the most absurd comeback from being down in the pits of despair to being on an 8-round winning streak.
This is insane from brubbba, turning it around, and that composition finally shaping up as we see Deisik going for the full roll down for this composition. Not particularly close to either 3-star, one off now for both. Oh, that hurts.
Oh boy, we've seen such good stuff from the Skellscon before. It might still be enough. Skrambez is very low indeed. That Tiaan note before. The big, will provide a big area effect on the back line. Will soak a lot of the aggro, but she's having to do so much work. Like Olaf, right in the center, is still up and fighting, but it's not getting enough done.
Olaf's items just aren't that great coming into this one, and Diana, fantastic tank at this point, but until Deisik can get those 3 stars, this is going to be a real struggle for him.
Oh boy, so yeah, we've got the roll down, it didn't hit, we are 1 away from both. And we do find one of them. That's, I mean, as you said, that is honestly going to be the bigger of the two. Diana needs to be carrying at this point. Olaf can still scale up by dying, but Diana needs to step into the breach and keep Deisik afloat HP-wise.
Because there's not great items here on this Olaf, there are item removers here for Deisik, so if the crab is kind today, he may find a better item still. Tiaan now at risk of being eliminated, matches into Deisik's ghost.
Yes, we'll see if they stand a ghost of a chance. The Diana right into the back line is already pressing through. We see the power of the scales going on full display. And for Tiaan, I think they can feel the end calling them. The bells are here. The good ultimate through, but it's not enough. The Diana is so incredibly tanky. No! Tiaan holds on.
Barely by the skin of his teeth. Now Tiaan down with 7 HP, survives 1 more round. Ooh. Can this extra PvE save him? A jeweled gauntlet, I don't think is enough.
No, it's not ideal. It's always tricky here in the treasure goblin, I want to say. Getting at this point, you've got your main carry itemized. Ideally, you're going to be finding Yasuo later on, but it's not really an item for them either. Brubbba, who we check in, is now on a 10-round winning streak. They are really making me reconsider my stance on not loss streaking.
Dude's loaded. 72 gold here, 10 win streak, 75 now, just rolling in cash. Could go for this level 9 pretty easily at this point, but you've got to look at the HP totals across the lobby. This lobby has become incredibly tight. There's all but 2 people at 20 HP or less.
Yeah, I mean, this could change real quick. These are the kind of lobbies we live here for here, as we've got Zoe 2 coming in up to level 9 for Brubbba. They cashed in their winning streak to get to level 9, and now they've got the odds to be able to put together a ridiculous spawn.
Now Darkus, I think, anticipating to be matching into an assassin board, but I don't think there are any. So positioning that Volibear right in the back, the Cavaliers get legended. I just saw the wrong indicators. As now the Volibear gets the chance to fire away against this Deja. This could be Tiaan getting knocked out. As you can see, that bear surviving with so much HP. It is not a problem as Darkus takes down Tiaan with the Volibear in check.
Well, Darkus is one of the players who was bringing out the legendary or legend comp in the previous day and doing very well with it. We managed to get a 2nd place with it before. I mean, we have been a little bit disappointed with how the legends have worked, but I think what we're seeing here from Darkus is a throwback. We've got the Nivea up at the front line. Notice we don't have any kind of, mana generation items. She's getting all of her mana from just being punched in the face.
Isn't that how we all wish our lives work? It's just like, yes, punch me in the face and I'll do better. I've tried it at a LAN. It did not work out for me. I asked my co-caster, just a light one. It just made me sad.
Oh no, well, sadness may be on the horizon for the Tiger. They have got their immediately the Alshin being knocked in the air means that Siphon's got all the time in the world to get started up. See, this Alshin doesn't get their mana from being hit. They have to rely on their auto attacks.
And now just getting stunned up back and forth, finally will fire away. Oh. You gotta watch the Siphon, who charges directly into Ao Shin, taking down Sweller.
Oh my gosh. So that brings us bound to our top 4. Darkus is still fighting up against the sea. So yeah, so Deisik versus Darkus and that Volibear. We've seen games where the Volibear has really just sort of bounced off what was being played because of it. Again, it's a damage over time kind of setup rather than a big burst damage we might see from something like the Ao Shin. But in this particular lobby, it is working and it's working well.
And now rotating on to Deisik, who has finally fully rolled down, picked up a Yasuo 2 as well. So we see Volta has finished off his board with a Swain 3 and a full tank Shio Yu. Seems to be going very well for him these last couple of rounds.
Let's see who he's facing up against this round. Deisik has got themselves a pretty strong comp. You know, loads of stacks on the Olaf. Of course, you know, without having the Assassin Olaf in the mix, we can spend so much time that Swain stacking up on the backline. The damage is crazy, but the front line collapses, and this could, this is going to be the end of the Swain. Volta holds on by a thread.
2 HP left on the board. Deisik survives for another day. And Darkest struggling for their life against brubbba.
Oh.
Also falls to single digits, just 3 HP.
I was wondering where we were going to be seeing Darkest get something they couldn't overcome, as of course, they realize we're on day 2 of the Superbrawl. They welcome us with the open arms of a big pile of dragons.
There we go, going for that redemption. I was expecting the Dragonmancer Spatula, which is, in fact, Voltariux' choice.
Oh boy. We've got so little time for Darkest and Volta to try and make their bosses a little bit stronger. You know, Volta, we did think they were going to be trying to go for a dragon switch, and it looks like that is on the horizon, but they don't quite have enough money to pull it off.
No, and this is essentially meaning that it's a dead third augment for him. Has gone for that Dragon Horde, and it hasn't paid off because he's never had the chance or the economy to swap in a second dragon. Instead, just has a Dragonmancer Nico, who's kind of just sitting there with a dead spatula.
It's face versus face, 3 versus 4. One of these players dies in this round.
And you can see already in the backline, Swain firing away, chewing through the front line there for Darkest. The Volibear nonetheless powers through. Front line down for Voltariux. Swain versus Volibear. Victorious so far for the Swain. The healing so much, but the Anivia in the backline lives nonetheless.
Oh!
X will fall. 3 remain.
Oh my gosh, absolutely, I'm with you there. Having the Anivia be able to pump out the damage towards the end was just a difference maker. I thought Volta, was going to be able to overcome Darkest, but holding on still for the big old bear. We need to get out one more space. Brubbba is no longer undefeated. Deisik and brubbba, be able to trade with each other. Deisik is about as strong as they're going to get to be. We've got 3 on the Olaf, 3 on the Diana, and a 2-star Yasuo as well.
Beautiful items on all of them as well. Obviously, little under par for the Olaf, but that Yasuo, he's going to be real happy with.
Good knock up on that Diana, keeps things from getting too out of control immediately. We'll keep our eyes out closely on the Siphon. We're working our way through. Diana comes back down from the Zephyr into the backline, which should be right onto the Zoe. We've got the Olaf on the far left-hand side, keeping chewing away, but Siphon doesn't seem like they're really doing enough. The scale scores, I think, are going to take this one.
The Frozen Heart doing so much to slow down that Siphon. If he can take out the Diana, it may turn the fight. Doesn't get the bite onto her. Instead charges onto Olaf, who takes him down. And brubbba, single digits. This lobby is insanely close.
Darkest stayed alive in the previous round, so again, we've got 2 players who are mere moments from death. The Revenants coming in for Deisik. Just looking around to see where they're going to end up dropping that, because they've already got such good itemization for all 3 of their carries already.
We've gotten an update from production as well. 80 AD on that Olaf from that passive. Oof. 16 stacks, doing a ton of damage. And now the Frozen Heart pickup there for Darkest may actually be enough to start winning that matchup. Slow down the Olaf, slow down the Diana as well.
I certainly remember the time when Olaf would be built with a Quicksilver just because of how damaging it is to have the attack speed stripped out, but yeah, should be hugely defining. Blue buff for brubbba's got to find a place for them here. They've certainly got enough casters that they can't feel too bad about getting a faster first cast at least.
Possibly on the Zoe, who's been doing so much for the stall in that composition. Saw item remover used here to give Diana that Rabadon, so Deisik coming in with a little bit better of a board. And we can't overstate how strong the Kiana is here with that Spear of Shojin. Getting those blinds on the 80 carries of the opponents is going to be key positioning here.
Let us see if the God Bear is enough to defeat this big pile of Scale Scorns. It's managing to stay alive for the time being. Of course, note that the Volibear does not have Quicksilver either, as they just destroy the Olaf, chewing him to pieces. Now it's left to that Rabalan's Diana to try and do something, but this bear might just be the end of it. Deisik goes down, and now we've got 3 players. 3, 2, 1.
All comes down to this last round. Our winner will be decided, and you can see how strong Darkest board is, like you said, tearing that Olaf to pieces.
Oh my gosh. The Darkest, yeah, they're on the 3-round win streak right now. And note, of course, that Frozen Heart will be on the Lee Sin because there's just not really many other places you can put it which aren't going to get eaten as part of the Legend Sacrifice. Darkest, brubbba, and Deisik all with a chance of hitting first in this round.
Here's the matchup, brubbba into Darkest. That bear immediately Zephyred, immediately shrouded. The damage is low here for the side of Darkest. Siphon versus Volibear, the 1 versus 1 to decide the match. And Volibear so far uncontested. Stuns coming out left and right though. Volibear has no way to survive through them. He's down to half HP. Siphon with the charge, with the bite. Volibear so low. Darkest days are coming for our Turkish player.
Whoa!
Falls, and so does Darkest. 2 players left alive.
Oh my gosh, and that, everybody, is why we tend to see Quicksilver being thrown out onto our big bear friends, spending the whole round being CC'd one way or the other. But it brings us down to the final encounter. Scale Scorns. I think it was Makes who was talking about, how much they want to see Scale Scorn really come to the front and center here, and today they have been delivering.
And now I'm looking into this next round. The blinds are going to decide it for that Siphon. If he can get the assassinations, if they can get the burst, that will win it for brubbba. Otherwise, it's Deisik's fight.
Keep your eye on our friend Siphon in the middle. Of course, we need to keep up. There's so many carries from the Scale Scorn side. It's hard to keep track of them all.
Frozen Heart.
Good CC from the backside. Frozen Heart going to be able to cut the attack speed. The Olaf is still very healthy, as is the Yasuo. All of the carries remain intact to the end of the round. The stun is good, but ultimately, Scale Scorn are going to take themselves home another one.
Deisik taking the lobby, first place in round number 3, coming back with that Scale Scorn once more. This composition, frankly, in my estimation, is